Right, hold on. I want to talk about, forgive my hubris, you know. I want to talk about the Proofecy Protocol. Why do I wear this? Right? Because sometimes in a serious topic, levity is required. A little bit of lightness. Especially in my case, since I'm not enlightened, I'm not. I'm special in the way that people are special. I'm special in the way that every person is special. But I'm not special even in so much as like Forrest Gump is special, you know. I don't possess purity of heart, but I'm a little bit simpatico with it. My understanding is that in like Korea and Japan and China, the length of the chopsticks are different. A little bit of seriousness. Hope my smoke alarm don't go off. Good thing I disconnected the battery. We'll see though. You never know. All right. Serious topic, but we have to remain light. If you're not in the right place right now, find something that cools you out. If you're too cool and too cold, find something that warms you up. Get away from this and come back to it. Because even though, you know, like in my last video, I said I want to talk about these things matter of factly. The matter of fact thing about it is that the way this process that has come to me and that I'm trying to develop because it's come to me, and not just, certainly not just me, and compared to what I've seen them do, what I do is nothing. But for some reason, and I struggle with it daily, for some reason, it's my job to do this. And the best I can come up with is that I don't know who I will touch or how many. I know I will touch at least one, and there's no top end. Either way, it's an enormous responsibility because the torch is enormous. It's an enormous responsibility. And keeping the torch flame lit is an enormous responsibility. And those who are great, the heroes, the Kairos, the Chiros, the Shiros, the Shiras, the Wonder Women, the miraculous men, there are those great among us who carry that torch through thick and thin. But occasionally, because of the magnitude of their struggle, us little ones remain there beneath the bridge, or perhaps at their hip. Because of the magnitude of their struggle, they must let down the torch so they may fight with both hands, so to speak. And in those moments, us little ones are there to catch the torch before it's extinguished in the brook, and then give it back. That's the importance of a capillary. That's the importance of the littlest among us. That's the importance of the mouse and the lion. That we may ease the burden of those great among us, even if we are not great, yet serve that greatness that they serve. Not worshiping them, but worshiping that which they worship, even us little ones. Because there is a they, and there is a they of theys. We might hope to become like them, as they hope to become like that. Anyway, I want to talk about the Proofecy Protocol. Because, and it was only about a week ago, even though this has been about, well, I mentioned in my last video, and if you haven't seen my last video, please watch that first. My most recent, my Proofecy Protocol 01. I put the O before it because I might get above 10, I don't know. But, please watch that first. Welcome back. I feel very embarrassed, humbled, completely humiliated. I'm talking about this, but for some reason, it's not just my job, it's the job of those who have come before. It's your job. Sorry. And I talked about how I want to speak about it in a matter-of-fact way because I want to alleviate, right? Levity. Alleviate. Because there are times in our lives, when alleviation is not possible. There are times in our life when the full gravity, the full weight comes down. There are times in our life where we must eat that unleavened bread, not beef. There are times in our life, and they might be on a daily basis, where we must eat that unleavened bread, where we must eat the gravity of the situation of this life. But when we're talking about serious subjects, sometimes, you know, they call it the milk and the meat of the word. I don't like those terms. We'll call it the juice and the fruit of the word instead. I hope that's okay. So the milk of the word we're going to call the juice of the word, and the meat of the word we're going to call the fruit of the word. And we need both, because in the depths we come in contact with the fruit of the word. But on the surface level, we have the juice of the word, the milk and the meat. And they say you don't mix them. But sometimes you do. That honey barbecue sauce, that's the milk and the meat. The sweet and the savory. So, if you're experiencing any of this, you're in the fruit, the flesh. And sometimes that's very rewarding, and other times it's very, very grave. But when we're speaking theoretically, it helps to lighten the mood. Because our service to the Most High Principle is grave. It's a great gift. But that gift is harrowing, horrifying. The gift is the opportunity to fix the murderousness of the world. What a great gift. Thus the levity, so that we can sustain the gravity of the situation. And once again, first of all, suicide. If you're in that place, hold on. There's something that they under that has given you. Hold on to it. Some people might find what I just said like harsh or grave, but there is no cure for suicide yet. But there will be. We talk about going to Mars, we talk about going to space, we talk about exploring the cosmos. Who's talking about a cure for suicide? The God the Most High Principle, doesn't call the qualified, but qualifies the called. The priesthood of Melchizedek. What's that mean? Boil it down, boil it down, boil it down. Forget all the boil it down. What's it mean? Some people are chosen, and you have. If you're chosen, you're chosen. And there ain't nothing you can do about it, and there ain't nothing they can do about it. But there is something that the they of theys of that can do. And that's what we're doing. There are some people that cannot be helped by the system. That's where we come in. What we? You and me. And that which precedes us. I'm able to say what has not been said in some ways because of it's easier for me because of what has been given to me, but not only by the Most High, but by those who have served the Most High and have built the opportunity to get out of this shit. So I just wanted to give sufficient warning. And I'm not done. I want to talk about this a matter-of-factly because currently, as I experience what I call peering, because peering is different than prophecy. Prophecy is a different type of vision. You know, and like the Hindus have like, so I've heard, 3 million gods. But that has to do, in a sense, with like 3 million higher orders of perception. There's still a God of gods, right? Might as well talk about fire and iamblichus here. You know, when John explodes in the New Testament, John the Evangelist explodes with the word, the logos. Logos, logos, logos. God was the Word, Word was with God, God was the Word was God, God was the Word was the Word. Bird was the Word, but bird is the Word. But the difference between John the Evangelist and Iamblichus, who may well have been John, is that John starts at the beginning. In the beginning was the Word. Iamblichus starts just before the beginning. The logos came from the intellect. I want things to be more comfortable for people. The war we're fighting is we're killing an idea. We're killing what Plato might call a thought form. But what other philosophers might understand is not a primary form. Imagine that the rings of Saturn were disrupted, and no longer were they a disk. That's the hemorrhaging That's the hemorrhaging of the event horizon circling eternity, kind of, that has exploded into the world, that dominates the world, that people call the devil. I'll get to this more later. Alright, I might have to cut this narrative short and just get to what I want to talk about. Turkey. Turkey. Indigo. Turquoise. Turkeys. And I'd said before, like, I want to stop smoking or drinking on my videos, but I also have to show what I am. I don't want to fake. And I do want to reform, but there are some things more important. There are some things more important than bliss. Because if we achieve bliss in this murderous world without going to hell and killing death, how many souls are lost? And how can we serve the Alpha if the more souls who come to the truth increases the Omega, increases the infinity, the eternity of Omega, the God that God comes to. You know, Georg Cantor became a very, very famous mathematician for describing different sizes of infinities, starting with the Aleph. Aleph, Alpha, Aleph, Alf. Remember that old show, Alf? Ha! I kill me! I'm the Alpha and the Omega, Alf. Ha! I kill me! An alien. And Ollie. And ha! I kill me, divine suicide. Anyway. The way I came to, the way I came to this wasn't a matter of fact. The way I came to this, or the way this came to me, was harrowing a year ago. A year ago, I don't know, if you watch my videos, perhaps you can see where I was at. And I'm not above that now, not at all. But something certainly took hold. And for years before that, I had been what I call engaging with the veil. I call it that now. I didn't know what it was then. And I reserve the right to redefine my terminology at a later date. so far as I understand the veil, which is an ambiguous term to me, there are many ways to engage with it. There are many ways to have visions. And like I said, I call what I'm talking about now peering, not prophecy, because they're different. Very different. And there are many, many ways, and that's why I was referencing the Hindus. Like, there are many, many ways to have a vision. There are very many ways that the mind's eye sees. This is one of them. And I didn't expect it. This is one I wasn't looking for. You know, I'd engaged 20 years ago with dreamnosis, lucid dreaming, and so on. The depictions I hear from everybody online was nothing like mine. Mine was harrowing. It was brutal. And when I try to engage in it still, it's still very brutal. Sitting up in bed 1,000 times, trying to wake up and just, am I awake? Am I awake? Am I awake? Am I awake? Waking up for 100 years over and over again, sitting up in your same body. Am I awake? Am I awake? Am I awake? And then carrying that into the physical world. When I actually wake. The smolt. Dealing with the smolt. Because I guess one of the end points of dreamnosis is to actually project yourself into the real world. And I'd gotten to the point in my dreaming on the Castaneda philosophy. I'll talk more about the clarifying the controversy of him at another point, but the idea as presented in that text is, in lucid dreaming, to put yourself in the real world and then to move something, to do something in the real world as you're dreaming. And then when you wake, you can see if you actually did it. So I got to the point where, and it was very, very, very much like Frodo when he put on his ring. It was almost exactly like that. Or like Daniel-san, when he was looking at Mr. Miyagi after he got his ass kicked. You know, these fibers. It was very much like that. And I did get to the point, and I had to be quick before the dream in that sense dissolved. I had other lucid dreams that were different, that seemed to have more control. But when I was in the actual space where I lived, like jumping out of my body, going around, it was very, very brutal. And I did get to a point where in that state, I could be where I was and move things. But when I checked it later, they hadn't moved. Not long after engaging in this practice, I had what was the greatest event in my life. And when I say greatest, I mean largest. And I'm not ready to talk about that. But anyway, that's a different type of vision than what I'm talking about. And that was one that I pursued. And occasionally, I dip my toes in still, just to see where I'm at. And it's still a little tumultuous for me. Not many people talk about the existential crisis of lucid dreaming. But it's brutal. So when I say talking about peering and speaking about it matter-of-factly, a year ago I had a crisis that was only second to that one that I'm not going to talk about for now that happened 20 years ago. Triple black. It was very difficult and I didn't know what was happening. I'd been in what I call engaging with the veil. And engaging with the veil, and there are many, 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 many ways to engage in the veil, with the veil. Even in this dialogue, it can be as simple as something symbolic. The veil, for me, tends to look like fire, tends to look like wood grain, occasionally like well, back in the old days when they used to have UHF televisions, like an untuned television with the television static, sometimes a little like that. But mostly it looks like, or that movie, the Princess and the Frog, or the Disney movie with like the Princess and the Frog, when like that voodoo guy is calling upon things, like those types of images. That tends to be, or what tended for me to be, what the veil looked like. Kind of two-dimensional. But like I said, also, even before you actually start to see things that aren't there, which some people call schizophrenia. But within like shamanism, there's a more distinct and clear version of that. If you get caught up, if you have schizophrenic symptoms, I urge you to look into spiritualism. They, of the medical community and predominant psychological community, do not have a solution. You know, smoke some dope. I mean, if you just need to pass out, have a friend give you a massage, like, do something to get real. If you're freaking out, just do something to get real. Do whatever. Watch a funny movie, watch a cartoon, play with your dick, you know? I'm thinking of that old, there was some old movie with, what's his name, Sir Sidney Poitier, where he's like, something about monkey eater or monkey something, like, play with your dick, do this, do that, whatever, but, you know, anyway. Yeah, beat your meat. But like in a crisis situation, someone dies. You're so hard, this laughing thing may want to come up in you. And you may look here or there, and if there's wood grain around, you know, when I say wood grain, because it's one of those, what are they called? Something tests, Rorschach tests. Or you might look anywhere, a shadow, this, that, whatever, and see something smiling or laughing. Do not engage with that face. And I urge you, do not laugh. But also, don't be angry with yourself if you smile, but fight it. Do not go that way. Because the veil has been hemorrhaged. It's not the veil that is the problem, but it is those who use the infinite power of the veil, those or that, the idea forms that people give power to who have chosen incorrectly, that give that thought form power. Oh, I know I'm being very vague. I'm going to try to get more concrete. But then there are also other times. And for me, what happens is an oval comes. And yeah, that movie I've talked about before, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. It's a mini-series from Britain. In the first episode, Jonathan Secundus goes to the, I don't know what it is, but it's the Magician Society. And anyway, there's one scene in there where there's this like dark oval when they're all sitting at a table. It's very early on in the first episode. It's just a little oval around the picture. It's not explained. There's no reason for it. But anyway, that's a good description of what I noticed in myself happening. Like my own vision started to oval. That's the first sign that you're creeping up on the veil. So for a couple years, when I'd engage in what I call the veil, I'd see things, but not things that weren't there, but the things that were there took a certain life. There was this two-dimensional, cartoony thing happening. I could look at anything moving and not even necessarily moving, because sometimes if I look at something still and hear people talk, the movement would happen in my mind. And it could take on any form. And it was, again, very cartoony. Now that's the veil. In that movie, that Disney movie I was talking about, Princess and the Frog or whatever, all that voodoo power of the guy, what I'm saying is that's the power of those who choose to engage. There are those who choose to engage in the false magic of the miracle of the veil. Even seeing the veil is a miracle. That's what makes people schizophrenic, because that's what enables. There are other forces that engage the power of the veil to dominate you and dissociate you. That's schizophrenia. The collective error of free will that people, being souls, us, engage in. The not good black magic. There are types of good black magic. Depends very much what you mean by black. But the veil is meant to be breached. Once you learn to breach the veil, it has no power over you. Now, the veil presents itself in many ways. So I've conquered one. I shouldn't even say conquered. I'm able to navigate one manifestation of the veil. It's the lowest order. And I haven't done much, but I did enough where now I feel comfortable, like I can talk about it, because at least I've presented enough where at least I've opened the possibility. And I am very much for Thomas the Doubter. Which may well be a misnomer. The power of Thomas the Doubter is that Thomas the Doubter recognizes the power of evil as the accumulation of power of erroneous free will, aka the devil. So, I talked before about how I want to make things matter of fact. I guess maybe I'll just make this own video, like a warning, you know. Engaging with the veil, what I call the veil. I don't even like calling it that, but that's kind of what it is. The power that it had over me before no longer has power over me. That does not mean that the veil doesn't have power over me, and that those who engage in its power doesn't have power over me, or that there's not for much more for me to discover. The first time I did this, what I call peering, I was in great distress. And in fact, the peering was even more clear. At first, the veil lit alive. I was over there watching my TV back when it was over there, back last April. And it's funny too, my light that's shining on me now that was up there was over there. And it's funny because that was the black space that I talked about in my last video that I didn't even mean to. It's just all of a sudden there was a slight reflection. It was dark. It was actually the middle of the day because I was laid off because of COVID. And it reminded me of two things. It reminded me of Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast, the candle that talked, and it also reminded me of the Brave Little Toaster, the lamp and the Brave Little Toaster. So I kind of laughed when I was seeing it because I saw all these things moving, because it was one of the only like purely black images in my field of focus. And I was at that time watching one of the Jordan Peterson Sam Harris debates. It's weird, like when I first started doing this, it was listening to people talk, and I didn't notice until afterwards that that oval was created. I didn't notice it at this time. I was so distressed. I could barely get out of bed. I remember there were several days where just going up and down the stairs, like it would take me an hour to convince myself to go down and up the stairs. And about in this time period is when I had a totally different type of vision. When I saw that object up there that resolved. There was an object up there for 3 days. I couldn't look anywhere else in my apartment and see it. And I didn't see it like I was seeing something that wasn't there. I saw it like if you think about your refrigerator, or you think about your girlfriend, or you think about the store you went to today, right? You see it in your mind, and you can see it whether you look here, 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 or here. But I had this vision where it was just like that. It was just like this, an imaginary, it was just this thing in my mind. But I could only see it there. And it filled my room when I saw it there. Different type of vision. I have no explanation for it yet. Right? But once it was over, then that was pretty much the day before I made my St. Agnes video. Then the entire universe collapsed upon me, and I had to hold on for dear life. And it was Agnes. Who saved my fucking life that night. Period. It was a close call. My prayer that saved me was take me, save the girl. Keep it light. Keep it light, Jeff. Keep it light. But when it came upon me, I saw something very clear, and it was actually the clearest peering I ever saw, and it was more, I talked about it last time as being very black and gray, which is mostly how I see it now, but that time, probably because of my It's like sometimes when you're in a troubled state, you have heightened awareness, you know? When you feel you're being hunted, something inside you perks up, you know? And then it was more like red and ochre rather than, or like maroon and burnt umber or something rather than like black and gray. And it was very clear. And at that time, you know, and that's the thing about being calm is that it's hard not to get that whole messianic, complex, crazy shit when something like that happens, when you see something plain as day. In the midst of things, in the midst of things. So I was like, oh, this is so important. It's some huge prophecy. As it turns out, it wasn't. It was what I saw an hour later, and I'll show it sometime. I took a picture of it on my tablet, or maybe it was on this phone, but it was just something I was scrolling through about an hour later, and there it was, and that was it. It had nothing to do with anything. It wasn't important at all. Some visions aren't important, except for the fact that they defy the accepted physics. So that video, like that last video that I made, like the thing that I saw was virtually unimportant. It didn't matter. It just so happened. It's like a shadow. It's like a time shadow. This type of peering, it's a time shadow. There are photons, so they say. Right? Whatever that mathematical entity is that can be identified as a photon. There are chronons. In space, photons, which experience no time passage, cast shadows. So that's a space shadow. Right. I'm making a space shadow, so to speak. Chronons make time shadows. Sometimes when we see things, it's just a time shadow. But it's still real. It's still kind of like a prophecy, but it's peering. Prophecies are different. Prophecies come directly from God, from the Most High Principle. There can be pseudo-prophecies. There can be false prophecies. And they're still atemporal. But they may come from not God. Chronons are time shadows, or cast time shadows. But the importance is if you can say, you know, I saw this, I saw this, I saw this, and then prove it. It opens up everything, and that's the only reason why I'm doing this. In some sense, I don't care. It took me a while to figure it out. Again, like I said, I'll show more about it because I want to create a protocol. Why do I call it protocol? Like, just for me, what happens, and most of the time I just shut it off. Once I see that oval come, it's like I don't have the energy. There's other things I'm working on. Like, maybe I don't give a shit about a time shadow. It's like, okay, I can see an hour in the future. Great. Who gives a fuck? An hour ago I was doing bullshit, and an hour from now I'll be doing bullshit. Why relive it? You know? Who cares? But if it's able to be quote unquote proven as a thing, then that opens up the entire realm. And it's good to represent it in a matter-of-fact way and like take the gravity away from it. Because those who engage in spiritual exercises of what I consider and what is the bad magic uses that power against you. There are those who would put you in a situation to have that type of experience and then use that against you. That experience has no power over you. It's virtually nothing. Magically. Scientifically, super important if you can prove it, because it opens up the whole domain. But practically speaking, virtually useless. It's a shadow puppet. It's a time shadow. It happens, yes. But there are ideas that can grasp that if you don't understand, which is why I'm saying this. So there's very few people who this is going to apply to. And I hope and I pray, I mean, certainly if you've made it this far in the video, it applies to you. When that type of thing happens to you, do not let it take you. And there are very few places where you can go for help, and you will have to find. If you're watching this, you have it within you to get through it. Like, calm down, relax, like, be ridiculous, let yourself be a total idiot, like, whatever it takes, go to sleep if sleeping doesn't work, take off all your clothes. If that doesn't work, take a cold shower. If a cold shower doesn't work, take a warm shower. If a warm shower doesn't work, roll around on the floor. And whatever image, whatever anything, just hold on to it, right? There's no cure for suicide. So for anyone who would want to take this video and make me crazy for saying it, well, first of all, I mean, you're right. But second of all, I'd say, if you've never felt that power, and it's an evil fucking power, first of all, I'm sorry for when it comes. Second of all, I'd say, if you do not have the solution, the cure for suicide, then shut the fuck up. And if you do know what I'm talking about, if you're looking for the answer, you are the answer. You have a power within you to sustain. You have a power within you to perceive. You're an empath. You feel the pain of the world, and it's real. Now, today might not be the day to go waving your underwear around your head in the middle of the street, proclaiming it. That day will come. But the gift you have to share is so valuable, as sloppy as it may be, as messy as it may be. You're hunted. Yes. Why? Because you're the meat of the matter. Remember to lighten up. But engaging, once you're able to get past it, and this is, I guess, the moral of this story. I guess I have to make another video at some other point, but I guess the moral of this story is that the work involved, so I found after the fact, and again, I wasn't trying to get into this. I wasn't trying. It's just, I discovered it. And I don't mean I discovered it. I mean, it came upon me, and by studying this thing that was happening to me, I recognized it, right? And all of the work involved in getting past the veil, so to speak, again, if you start to see things kind of in the peripheries or in the shadows or in the darkness or whatever, if you get that oval shape come and then you start to see things going like this and you start to see two-dimensional, fiery, wood grain-like images smiling or mocking you or doing something like that, irrelevant, means nothing except for those ideas and consciousnesses, those bad warlocks and witches and sorcerers and prana eaters who engage in that practice and can see you from where they are. They may use that atemporal surface of the veil, so to speak, to gain access to you, to steal your power. But you have to submit to it, so don't. You have to become emotionally engaged in it, so don't. Feeling is the most powerful magic. Now, you don't want to turn off your feelings and you don't want to negate your emotions, but save your emotions for the things that are important. Do not engage your emotions in the veil. Don't. There's nothing there. But, and Disney got it right with that whole Frog Prince thing. Like, things can jump out, all these things can happen, all this. It's just like the mushroom tripping in the old Egypt versus the Acacia, post-Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, Moses, all that. Now, I don't think Moses when he saw the burning bush was tripping on acacia. He may have been trained, or not even trained, but initiated when he was a youngster. Back in Egypt, when he was an Egyptian, he may have been initiated with acacia. But when he was at the burning bush, no. The burning bush is that veil. He may well have lit a bush on fire in order to engage the veil so that he could peer through it. Possibly. It's just another way of thinking about it. But if you see things like that, if you see little smiley faces in the shadows, be encouraged, but not too encouraged. Don't get the messianic complex. Don't feel like, oh, some great thing's happening. You're seeing a time shadow. It's an ability that has been stolen from us, and it's an ability that has been used against us. Relax and see what's behind it. If that's what you want. Or just drop it. Forget about it. Fuck it. Because for the most part, it's just a time shadow. And it's not necessarily a valuable vision. It's just, I suppose it's probably maybe a useful tool, but and it's certainly a useful tool if you can use it to prove to prove that you're peering through time. You can crumble you can use that to help crumble certain types of religious and scientific dogmatism that infects the realm of ideas of this day. And that's useful. And when it first started happening to me, it was just usually on a Saturday when I had a little bit of free time. And Saturdays I kind of have a routine where I go to the dump, do some dishes, and so on. I usually sleep in quite a bit last couple years. And I'll watch my YouTube videos, and for whatever reason on my feeds or whatever reason I get good ones on Saturdays. And a lot of times there are discussions, and when I hear people talk, then I'll stop what I'm doing and I just kind of zone out. And that's when I see the oval come. And especially on Saturdays, because I don't have to go to work, or sometimes during the week if I see the oval come, I just shut it off, get out of it and start doing shit, because it's like I don't got time for this right now. I gotta draw my little pictures or read some stuff on the interweb or whatever. But on Saturdays I might have the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes to lay down, put a cloth over my face, meditate, or turn all my lights off and just kind of space out on a black background and just see what happens. And the more times I did it, the less I engage with the veil proper and begin to see through it. And again, it's just I see what I'm going to see in an hour. And usually it's another YouTube video if it's on a Saturday, because like while I'm doing my chores, I have YouTube videos playing. And but also I go to the dump, so sometimes I see the dump. But this last Saturday I was watching Karate Kid, or yeah, Saturday. I was watching Karate Kid in the morning, and my folks called, and they were talking. My grandmother's ill, and they were talking about my grandmother, and that kind of put me in a little bit of a funk. So I decided I need to meditate after I hung up the phone. And just for what it's worth, I paused. When I talked to my parents, I paused Karate Kid when he was putting a golf ball at the mini golf course when he was on his date. And then I was laying on my bed and peering at that painting, though it was in more or less darkness, but there was still a little bit of play. And that's when I saw what I saw, blah, blah, blah. Alright, gonna have to cut this short. It's over. Sometimes you just know when it's over. Hold on. Have a good day. And if you can't, get to tomorrow. A good day awaits.